Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oliver Westmoreland. I am an OISC-registered Level 3 Immigration Advisor. I'm also Senior Immigration Lawyer at GSN Immigration. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you can continue to watch our extremely interesting videos about UK visa and immigration advice. Today's topic, I must be honest with you, as always, is something quite extremely complicated. We're going to talk about the famous new Act of Parliament, Safety of Randa, Asylum and Immigration Act 2024. If you haven't been reading the papers, you won't know, but if you have been reading them, probably you will have encountered it. We're also going to be talking about the new treaty between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Rwanda. This is all about asylum seekers and all that kind of thing. Now, we're in a very sort of complicated situation at the moment. We had one important Act of Parliament in 2022, Nationality and Borders Act 2022. This made some big steps about asylum protection, asylum seeking. It introduced some significant restrictions. Even before that was absorbed, we got the Illegal Migration Act 2023, which went a bit further, introduced bigger and stronger steps. But to make the whole thing more complicated, a lot of the Illegal Migration Act 2023 has not yet come into force. So this situation is already complicated. It's become more complicated now with this new act, which came into force earlier this month. Last month actually. Is it May now? It's May now, isn't it? Late April, this new act came into force. But differently from the 2023 act, it came into force entirely on the day. At the same moment, the new UK Randa Treaty came into effect. Now, I don't want to get too technical because it gets too boring, but an Act of Parliament is something that goes through the Westminster Parliament. MPs vote on it, and if they vote on it, enough of them, it becomes law. Treaty is something quite different. A treaty does not go through the UK Parliament, or not necessarily. Treaty is an agreement between two countries to do this, that and the other. Treaty should be legally binding on the countries that agree to it and sign it. These two things happened on the same day. The Act of Parliament went through Parliament, was passed by Parliament. It came into effect in its entirety. The treaty came into effect the same day as well. I think, according to my memory, Mr. Shaw, it was 25th of April. Is that correct?
Yes.
The day before my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That was when it happened. Now, this new Act of Parliament, it does introduce more restrictions, but in a very funny and particular way. Long time ago, the British government came up with a scheme in collaboration with its friends in the government of Rwanda, hatched a scheme whereby asylum seekers could be sent from the UK before their claims had been processed or anything. They could be sent to Rwanda for the Rwandan authorities to process the asylum claims. If the asylum claims would be successful, then those people could live their lives happily in Rwanda, which is apparently a nice place, so the government says, nice weather. Some people were not happy with it, despite the weather. Some people said, well, look, Rwanda is not a terribly safe place. It doesn't have a good human rights record. It's not suitable for this kind of arrangement with the British government. This went all the way through the courts. It got to the House of Lords. Some of the affected claimants took the case. It went as far as the House of Lords. They made their decision in November 2023. They said, to cut it short, Rwanda is not a particularly safe place. That there is some disparaging ideas and comments about it. And they said, most specifically, the asylum processing in Rwanda wouldn't necessarily be particularly good. They gave lots of reasons. Most particularly, a person could end up being sent back to a country where they would be in danger. Having not successfully got through the asylum process in Rwanda, they said it could happen that a person could be sent back to a country where they would be in danger. If you want to be technical, which you probably don't, but you're going to have to listen to me anyway, It's called refoulement, or if you want to be pretentious, it's a sort of French word, refoulement. It's where someone gets sent back to the country where they fled because they said they're going to be in danger. House of Lords says lots of bad things about the processes in Rwanda, how they would be, how they might be. This particular thing came up. There was a danger that Rwandan authorities could send someone back to a country where they would be in danger. Government was incredibly upset by this, because I do remember before the case came up before the House of Lords of the Supreme Court, as it's now called. So thank you for updating me. This was Suella Braverman in those days. She said the government is confident that the Supreme Court will overturn the previous judgment of the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is the court below. They said, no, we're confident on the basis of our representations. The Supreme Court surely will overturn the Court of Appeal's decision. Court of Rwanda wasn't safe. They said, I don't want everything to be fine. I really wondered, and we wondered in this firm, we wondered, can you really second guess the Supreme Court? Well, obviously not. Supreme Court completely agreed with the Court of Appeal. Said, no, it's not necessarily safe. This scheme, as it is unlawful. Such a scheme is not necessarily unlawful. That there's no, it doesn't defend any important principle of international law. You can farm out your asylum seeking process to other country. It doesn't offend any deep principle of international law. But this particular scheme, it was unlawful because Rwanda is not sufficiently reliable. So the government was horribly shocked by this. I strongly imagine, because apparently they were confident that the Supreme Court would agree with them. It was fine and it was safe and it was good. They came up with this extraordinary scheme, which I think is unparalleled, surely, in English legal history. They said, oh, okay, we will make a treaty, which is an international agreement. We will make a treaty with the Rwandan authorities, and the treaty will build in all sorts of safeguards which will satisfy the Supreme Court's concerns. That's what I said. But that wasn't be enough. Also, they will pass an Act of Parliament, Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Act 2024, which will say Rwanda is safe. This is what some people call a legal fiction, or potentially a legal fiction. The Act of Parliament will say Rwanda is safe. The words from the Act are extremely important. I'm going to read them for you. Every decision maker must conclusively treat the Republic of Rwanda as a safe country. That's any Home Office decision maker, any other kind of UKVR decision maker, any court, any tribunal. They cannot, court or tribunal cannot entertain any idea that Rwanda is not a safe country. Now, this has passed through Parliament. Now, as I'm sure very deep legal students like you, Mr. Shaw, you will understand. An Act of Parliament is supreme in the United Kingdom. There is no other legal instrument which can match an Act of Parliament. It's primary legislation. It becomes the law, passed by Parliament. As everyone tells us for years and years and years in this country, Parliament is sovereign. There is no higher power than Parliament in this country. Parliament somehow agreed to this. It was very controversial, but they agreed it to a reasonable good majority. Parliament has decided that, not that Rwanda is safe, Parliament has decided that Rwanda must be treated as safe. Now, there's a little important distinction, but that's how it is. And that's the law. Now, lots of people say, this is illegal under international law. It might be, but the way that the Act is written, it says, well, it tells us what we already knew. An Act of Parliament overrides any international agreement or arrangement or treaty. So there we are, and this is why it's been so controversial. The Act has instituted something which might be a fiction, but agreed by Parliament, it becomes the law. If you study law, back in your old days, law book says the Westminster Parliament can pass any law that it likes. It has this silly classic example. The Westminster Parliament can pass an act saying it's illegal to smoke on the streets of Paris. Now, whether the provisions would take any notice, doesn't matter. Parliament can pass any law, and now this sort of silly thing you get in your law books, it comes into real life. Never happened before in English legal history. Parliament has agreed to something which may be not true, but once it's agreed, it becomes a sort of legal fact. So these two things work together, the Act and the treaty. Could be legally quite watertight. If when you're very bored, you read the treaty, easily obtainable on the website. It goes into fine detail. Rwanda is not allowed to send anyone to any country except the United Kingdom. Rwanda cannot send anyone anywhere else apart from the United Kingdom if they wanted to, if they had to. So that seems good. Treaty is very detailed, proper. It shows that everyone gets proper treatment. It looks legally watertight. It's just one small piece of this jigsaw that is missing. The House of Lords has never agreed to anything in the treaty or anything in the Act of Parliament because they haven't been asked. A court gives an opinion if someone asks or someone makes a claim. Supreme Court hasn't said anything about this because it's not their place to say. So the judgment of the Supreme Court, which is extremely important, the Supreme Court is the highest court in England. Those judges are experts. They know what they're talking about. After, I presume, many, many hours of thought and study and deliberation, they decided it wasn't safe. That hasn't been overturned in any real way. The treaty has been made. The Act of Parliament has been passed, but with no reference to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's judgment, it still stands there, but it falls away in the face of the Act and the treaty. And we think, so we're told, in the next couple of months, asylum seekers are going to be sent to Randa. One other little thing, if you read the little deep corners of the treaty, even if someone's claim is unsuccessful, they shall, this is the word, they shall be given permanent residence in Rwanda. So this makes a very strange scheme. Even the asylum seekers whose claim is not accepted, they shall be given permanent residence in Rwanda. Now, I've shown you a completely horribly confusing things. I'm sure you have many, many questions to ask about this.
Yes, this is very interesting and very detailed knowledge that you've shared about this, and you've done quite a bit of research and reading up on this.
Well, that's what I get paid for, really, isn't it?
Fantastic. Should all the asylum seekers be scared that they may be removed to Rwanda?
Well, I can't tell someone who should be scared about what. I mean, I would be scared about making such an extremely dangerous trip on a boat. You might get drowned. I would be scared to do that. I can't answer that. But what I can say is this. There is a possibility, not a certainty, but a possibility. Someone who comes to the UK on, the classic small boat route, they may find out that they get removed to Rwanda. There aren't many defences against that. You would have to show to successfully to defeat the government's intention to remove you to Rwanda. You would have to show to a convincing level that there would be serious and irreversible harm if you went to Rwanda. Now, for 99.9% of people, there wouldn't be, because the Rwandan authorities, they don't know people. People just come. You would have to show that there's something about your situation, your circumstances, that would unusually and particularly mean that you would face a real risk of serious and irreversible harm. And I'd like to add another thing, which maybe I should. European Court of Human Rights, it can issue a thing called a Rule 39 interim measure. They did it in 2022. The British government, they wanted to remove people to Rwanda. European Court of Human Rights stopped it. They issued a Rule 39 interim measure which stopped the flight. This is in what English law we will call something like an injunction, but it's a kind of an international injunction. One of the extremely powerful and interesting things about the Safety of Rwanda Act is that it gives ministers the power to ignore a Rule 39 interim measure. This has never happened before in English law, ever since we got involved with the European Court of Human Rights, particularly in 2000. with the passing of the Human Rights Act. This is an absolutely amazing and extraordinary step. It's in there very, very clearly. Minister of the Crown can ignore Rule 39 interim measure if they think fit. They don't have to, they can follow it. But if they think fit, they can ignore it. And this is why a lot of lawyers got extremely angry and upset, because they say, you can't do that. But like I said, the UK Parliament is sovereign. It does what it likes pretty much. I can't see there's any punishment coming from the European Court of Human Rights. They're not going to send the bombers and the tanks and the army. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But the way that the political debate has gone in the last few months or so, it's like this, isn't it? British government doesn't care, or doesn't fully care, about international law, or not as much as it might do. So far, the government has not said we're not intending to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. I mean, some people have, and they've hinted, but it hasn't really become a policy. But this is the flavour, the way that things have been going in the last few months. British government says that we don't really care about international law anymore. Our domestic agenda is more important. We're not going to be bossed around by foreign institutions, which sounds good, but actually the European Court of Human Rights is pretty much a British institution as well. But this is the political flavour, and anyway, good or bad, that's what happens. Looks to me like the flights to Rwanda can start happening, and there is no strong defence about it, except in rare cases. I'm sorry, my answer was too long, Mr. Sharp. I wanted to say what's going to say.
No, that's quite detailed and nice to know all of that. Thank you. Currently, if someone is granted asylum in the UK, they're able to sponsor their family reunion. They can join them in the UK.
Yes.
Have you come across anything like that for this Rwanda scheme, where someone may be removed? Would their family be able to join them in Rwanda?
I don't have a strong answer to that. I think the answer to that is yes.
Sure. And
I don't have strong legal authority for that, but I think the answer is yes.
Sure. Assuming someone gets removed to Rwanda under this scheme, and in the future their circumstances change, perhaps they get sponsorship for a work visa, maybe they get married to a British citizen and want to apply for a spousal visa, would it be easy for them to come back if they meet visa requirements for another visa category?
It wouldn't be difficult or easy. They would meet the same rules as anybody else.
So this removal from Rwanda, depending on, of course, immigration rules in place at the time, shouldn't be too complicated.
Let me. I can see where you're coming from on that question. If someone is removed from the UK because of bad stuff, like they've been breaching the conditions of their immigration rules, so on and so forth, this is different. It's not that kind of removal. It's not removed because you've done something bad. Kind of, not exactly. You haven't been breaching immigration rules. You're removed because the UK wants your claim to be processed there. It's not going to have any bad effect, I don't think, in the long run in that way.
Okay, that's good to know that people who may be removed may be able to come back if they're able to meet visa requirements of another category.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I think we've dived into this topic in a lot of detail, and there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, I'm sorry to take so much of your time.
No, it's a pleasure going through this with you, and I thank you, and we see you in the next vlog.
See you next time.